Hello, welcome to Project Review Committee for February 28, 2024. We're going to go ahead and start today's meeting at 1:32 p.m. First off, we're going to go ahead and do roll call. Myself, Oscar Cepeda, the Associate Planner within Community Development. We're also joined by Claudia Calderon, our Acting Community Development Director. We're also joined by Javier Sanchez, the Engineering and Project Management Director. We're joined by Clayton Dignam, our Fire Marshal. We're also joined by James Wickersham, our Chief Building Official. We're joined by Robert Alvarez, our Field Services Manager. We're also joined by Brianna Spry, our Field Services Refuse Superintendent. And we're also joined by Joe Baeza, our Field Services Street Superintendent. Sarah Torres also joins us with the Engineering Department. And that is all from staff. With that, at this time, I'm going to open oral communications. This is the opportunity for members of the public to address the committee on any matter pertaining to project review.
Hello, my name is Greg Frank. I'm just curious if this portion of the meeting is for applicants to talk or if it's just the public in general.
It's open to the public, but in regards to the items on the agenda, we'll review those projects after oral communications.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from anybody online or anybody in person? With that, I'm going to go ahead and close oral communications. So for today's PRC agenda, we do have two items. The first item is PRC 2024-005, which is a multi-family residential project. Let me pull up that information and share my screen. The application stated 32 units, but after reviewing the site plan and the project as a whole, it does look like they're proposing 4 buildings with a total of 24 units. The project is located on the north west corner of Putnam Avenue and Indiana Street. The subject property has 2 APNs, 251-180-025 and 251-180-007. The property is located within the high density residential, which is RM3, and does have a general plan land use of high density residential. As far as comments from planning, it is again a multi-family residential zone property. It does allow maximum units of 30 units per net acre. As far as the development itself, building A, B, and C looks to be within the minimum required setback. It is considered a reverse corner lot, which would require a minimum 12 feet setback from the street side property line. As stated previously, there are two current properties or two lots within the development. The structures look like it's straddling those lot lines, which a lot merger or adjustment would be a process that the applicant would have to complete. Also, open parking. It does state, our development code does limit open parking visible from a street not to exceed 30%. Currently, we're showing 38%. A solution could possibly, or suggestion could be maybe rotating a building in this area to limit that parking limitation. The development code does require private open space and common open space for the development. For 24 units, it will require minimum 2,400 square feet of area, which can be areas for barbecue, for example, playgrounds, landscaped areas, swimming pools, patios may work for that. And also a requirement would be private open space, minimum 50 square feet per unit. Also, walkways will be a requirement on the development. Walkways shall link the residential units to the right-of-way, which we do show that here. And also connecting to other recreational facilities or with other residential units. Any required trash enclosures to comply with our development code section 313 as far as location, materials, and landscaped perimeters. Any proposed fencing complying with section 300.03 as far as the design of the fencing, height limitations, any fencing within the front yard or street side setback cannot exceed 3.5 feet or 4 feet, depending on the material of the fencing. If it's a solid fence, not greater than 3.5. If it's visible, like wrought iron fencing, it could be no greater than 4 feet. Any fencing on the exterior outside of those required yards can be up to 7 feet, possibly 8 feet with zoning administrator relief or approval. And one question we had for the applicant, would these units propose any affordable housing? Or would it be just market rate?
Currently, we're looking at market rate, but we're open to affordable housing as well.
There are some incentives and concessions. If you do go that route, you can also get bonus densities as part of your project to exceed the maximum allowable, for example. We will provide that information in the comments, the PRC comments, if that is something you would like to take a look at.
That'd be great. Thank you.
But other than that, that's pretty much our comments from planning. Are there any questions at this time for planning, Greg?
No, the only item I was going to bring up was the discrepancy between our application stating 32 units versus the 24. I'm glad that you caught that. Thank you. We've been going back and forth with the developer to increase density and actually had looked at converting one of the 2-bedroom units in each building into 2 studio units, but after doing some more market research, we reverted back to all 2-bedroom units.
Okay. I do want to share the elevations here of the project. Something that I did want to mention also that the project does meet the minimum for architecture articulation, making sure that the units have a roof or recessed entrance. Just a comment I also wanted to add. Okay, we'll move it along with fire with Clayton.
For this project, the project shall comply with the latest applicable codes. Fire hydrants shall be placed based on distance, no greater spacing than 300 feet for multifamily residential applications. Where 2 or more hydrants and multiple fire sprinkler service connections are required for a project, the fire hydrants and service lines shall be on a looped system with proper backflow prevention. Depending on the location of existing hydrants and the required fire flow, additional hydrants may be required. All hydrant locations shall be approved by the fire department. Fire hydrants located across a public street shall not be utilized for calculations or considered as available to meet the fire flow and/or FDC connection requirements for this project. No structure shall be greater than 400 feet from a fire hydrant. All hydrants must be in place and accepted by the fire department prior to any combustibles being brought onto the site. The project is to meet the minimum fire flow requirements per the table in Appendix B of the most recently adopted edition of the California Fire Code, which is the 2022 Fire Code. Fire sprinkler plans and calculations required. Underground plans shall be submitted with above ground plans. Fire alarm monitoring plans are required. FDCs are required to be placed within 50 feet of a fire hydrant in an approved location. And where conditions permit, the FDC is to be located no closer than 40 feet from the building. 2 entry and exit points are preferred. Based on the size of this project right now, this is not a requirement, but it is preferential if the configuration could be changed to allow for a second point of entry access, primarily on the Indiana side there. And if so, if there is a secondary access, it has to comply with the California Fire Code. We need to maintain a minimum of 20-foot roadways for the fire department access. Fire extinguishers shall be placed to comply with the currently adopted edition of the California Fire Code, which requires no further than 75-foot travel distance. And let's see, address numbers shall be posted on the buildings and shall be visible from the street. Installed numbers shall contrast their background. And based on what I'm seeing now, it's not showing it. However, if through your discussions and as you move forward, you decide to put gates on this, we will require Knox gate access for any gates that are installed. And that's it for fire. Do you have any questions?
No, those are all great comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Clayton. Next with James with building.
For the building department, most comments would be during the plan review process. Keep in mind that these will have to be designed per 11A of the CVC for accessibility. And that's all the comments that I would have at this time.
Thank you, James. Next with Javier with engineering.
All right, thanks, Oscar. For engineering, let's see. Utilities exist there. There's sewer and water around the Indiana and Putnam, so it'd just be tying in to that as you need it. One main comment will be that because of the scope of the development and our requirements of the general plan, the existing sidewalks that are there would be removed in order to provide a landscape parkway and an offset sidewalk. And so that apply to both frontages. May require improvements to that ramp if it doesn't meet accessibility requirements. And then there'd be an addition of a few more street lights. And as far as a drainage pattern, if you get it to the street, it'll flow west, but there is a minimum required amount of runoff to be held on site per the state's MS4 requirements. So that'll be, it could be a mix of either like a depressed landscaped area, pervious concrete, underground storage, things like that. So those are the main comments from engineering.
Thank you. I have one question, Javier, about the detached sidewalk.
Mhm.
Are those details or dimensions available in the development code? I'm just curious as to what that landscape width would be, and then what the new sidewalk width would be.
Right. Let me. It just depends on the designation of the streets. I believe Indiana's an arterial. That one, it requires 7.5 feet from 7.5 feet of landscaping behind the curb, and then 8-foot sidewalk behind it. And then on Putnam is a local. Yeah, so that's a 4.5-foot landscape parkway behind the curb and a 5-foot sidewalk.
Thank you.
One quick question, Javier, if they do decide to provide a second access point, is there, because it's not single family, and it will be multifamily, that would be something that we could allow on a arterial?
Yes, yes, and it'd be nice and if that could line up with Cleveland Avenue. But if it's offset from that, then we can take a look.
Good, thank you. Next with, Brianna.
Hi, just to clarify, are you going with the 24 units or the 32 units?
The 24 units.
24, okay. So this will require 3 triple bin enclosures due to state mandates. And looking at the plans, unless I'm just not seeing it correctly, I'm only seeing the 1 enclosure there.
No, you are correct. We had
Okay.
shown just 1, but we'll make the adjustments to add 3.
Yeah, they'll need 3 bin enclosures, and preferably direct stab. Because the way it's set up right now, I'm 99.99% sure that the drivers would not be able to make that loop at the top to service any bins if they were in that area. But having that second access point onto Indiana, that would be incredibly helpful.
Yeah, I agree. I could see the need now for that second access point.
Yeah. Yeah, those trucks are so tall that, and they're just awkward anyway to begin with. And having to back up onto either of those roads is not something I want to allow. So being able to turn around would be pretty important.
Understood.
I think that's it for me.
Thank you. Next with, Robert.
So we're gonna need backflow devices on all required water services and fire suppression equipment. You also want to separate the meter and backflow device for all your landscaping. I think those are all the comments I have.
Thank you, Robert. Next with Joe. Field services, streets.
No comments from the street department.
Thank you. All right, looks like that's all of the departments. As far as comments related to today's project, we will compile those in a letter, Greg, and send that out within 2 weeks timeframe from today's meeting. If you have any questions in the future, feel free to reach out and we'll be able to assist you on that. And at this time, is there any questions for today's meeting?
I have one quick question. As we redesign this, maybe to add the second drive approach and reorganize parking for the trash enclosures, there's a chance that we may be under the required number of parking spaces. If that is the case, is there any opportunity for a parking reduction?
There is state law, recent state law that was adopted. For example, if there's any residential projects located within 1/2 mile of public transit, then minimum parking requirements could be would not be required. So we could work with you in regards to the parking stalls.
Okay.
Yes.
That's fantastic. And then as we make these changes and incorporate all the revisions from staff, will we need to resubmit and come back to the PRC, or will those changes be handled on just a staff level?
It'll be handled at staff level. It won't be another requirement to come back to project review committee unless staff sees that there's been a substantial change, that some of the comments may be different. If that's the case, then we'll schedule another meeting. But most likely, depending on if you want to proceed with, affordable housing, then that is something that we would also have to process before going through your building permit.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you, Greg, for the application. Again, looking forward to working with you on this project, and hopefully we get this completed and constructed.
I agree. Thank you guys for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And if you want to stick around for the second item, you're more than welcome to.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, on the second item of today's agenda, we do have a project number PRC 2024 for Larissa's Home Furnishing. Property is located at 159 North Main Street. I know there was an updated floor plan. Well, let me pull up that information. As far as the property, it is located in our downtown retail north of Olive. And it also has a general plan land use of downtown retail north of Olive. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. So as far as zoning, the use is considered retail, which is a permitted use within the downtown retail Norfolk Olive Zone District. The comments that planning would have is gonna be limited to the signage, any permanent sign that you would like to install, making sure it complies with our downtown design guidelines. Also, the maximum allowable. If you want to display any temporary signs, for example, grand opening, or hey, we're having, what is it, a sale of some sort, and you want to display a temporary sign, it will require a temporary sign permit, which, runs at $19.75, and we do have an application for that, which will include links of those applications in the letter. If you're wanting to display any window signs, making sure that it does not exceed 50% of the coverage of those windows, if that is something that you would like to propose.
Is it okay for the sign company that's going to put my sign up to be in contact and get the permit?
Of course, it will require a permit for the permanent sign. If there's any remodels that may require permits, a sign permit will be separate from that instruction.
On the temporary sign
Yes,
permit, what is the duration of being able to display that?
it's up to 3 months. And
And-
it cannot exceed 40 square feet.
Let's see. How far in advance do I need to apply for that?
At least 2 weeks beforehand. That way it gives staff time to review the application, review the banner, making sure it complies with our development standards. But yeah, if you would give us up to 2 weeks,
Do the painted windows count as temporary sign?
it wouldn't be a temporary sign, but we do have standards for not to exceed 50% of that coverage.
Painted windows.
Yes.
So painted windows, I don't need to,
No, it's not considered
Just don't cover more
temporary,
than 50%.
because it's not a banner or a flag of temporary nature. And that's gonna be pretty much our comments from planning. Good. With that, we'll pass it along with our fire department with Clayton.
So the group M occupancy requires fire sprinklers if the area utilized for the display and sale of upholstered furniture or mattresses within the structure exceeds 5,000 square feet. Based on the updated layout that was provided, it appears the proposal will not require fire sprinklers at this time. Should the sale and display area expand, or there is any additions or modifications, the property will be required to comply with all applicable codes at this time, or at that time. And so essentially what the fire department will need is NOx access required, and then fire extinguishers placed to comply with the currently adopted edition of the California Fire Code. We met down there, we discussed both of those things, those items already. So moving forward, that should take care of it. So that's it from fire.
Thank you, Clayton. Next with James with our building division.
If no construction is being done, no permits are required, no comments from building.
Thank you, James. Next with engineering with Javier.
Same for engineering, since no construction, we wouldn't have comments.
Thank you. With field services with Brianna.
I have no comments.
Thank you. Next with Robert.
No comment.
Thank you, Robert. Next with Joe.
No comments.
Thank you, Joe. Looks like that is all from staff. Are there any questions from the applicant at this time.
My question was related to signs and you answered that, so thank you.
And as stated on the previous project, we'll compile each department's comments related to today's project. And we'll get that letter out to the applicant in 2 weeks. Timeframe.
One last question, how
Sure.
long before the business license can be? Business can open.
On the planning side, we'll be able to sign off or approve if we haven't yet for zoning wise. So we'll be able to,
As long as it takes to get us all routed.
Thank you.
right.
So we
I
would
think,
expect to see something, I would think, in 2 to 3 days, so it, or is it?
in regards to the business license,
Yeah, it's being routed. It's just a matter of time for all of us to get it routed, to get it back.
Yeah, this is the only holdup that we know on it.
okay.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody,
Well, thank you.
for your
Thank you for
time.
the
and for
application and
consideration.
we wish you good luck and success. Thank you. All right, and with that, we're gonna go ahead and end today's project review committee meeting at 2:03 p.m. Thank you.